Hi everyone, welcome back. Epic Slayers here. It's been a long time since I said that. Today I wanted to check out Strikers, the Strikers gear set, because with phase 2 of the PTS there was some significant changes to how Strikers is going to work. Now, yesterday I went over the patch notes, but just to basically tell you guys, if you haven't seen already, in terms of the damage and the way the damage is calculated, it's gone from multiplicative damage to additive damage, which is a pretty significant nerf. It's basically what they did with Heartbreakers. When Heartbreakers, as part of the first season, season 9, when that first came out, that was multiplicative, I believe, and then it got changed to additive, and that was quite a significant nerf. And they've applied the same thing here with Strikers. Now, in order to combat the nerf, they've made some changes to the 4-piece and the stacks and whatnot. So let's just briefly go over that. The 4-piece here, Striker's Gamble. Weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. 2 stacks lost per second between 0 to 50 stacks. 3 stacks lost per second between 50 to 100 stacks. Now onto the chest piece, and with Press the Advantage, it increases the max stacks for Striker's Gamble from 100 to 200. You lose 4 stacks per second between 100 to 150 stacks, and you lose 5 stacks per second between 150 and 200 stacks. And then on the backpack, with the risk management talent, increases total weapon damage gained per stack of Striker's Gamble from 0.65% to 1%. So that's basically what the changes are. The actual damage for this set is kind of been amped up in terms of how much damage you can actually do overall. Now that you can go up to 200 stacks, I believe the amount of actual damage you can get from this set is like up to 200%, something crazy like that. I believe it is going to be the highest DPS gear set in the game, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see a lot of videos that will say that, and they wouldn't be wrong. People who would say that this has the highest DPS in the game is probably true. I mean, it's definitely true based on the numbers as part of this PTS when built in all reds, which is probably not the way that you'd want to build this set, to be honest. You'd probably want to put some blues in there, because you need some survivability, right? There's no point in running all reds on this, because in kind of legendary content and stuff, you're going to need some survivability. So having blues there will help, and you've got that extra kind of damage anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. But there is a big problem with this gear set, and you've probably already figured it out just based on reading through the description of how this gear set currently works. Firstly, I'm not quite sure why Massive felt the need to increase the amount of stacks, because the amount of stacks now needed is pretty insane. Now, on the PTS, I don't actually have the ACS 12 because I don't play on PC. It's kind of like a new character. The best way for you to build stacks is the same way that you would in the live game for Heartbreakers, right? You're going to use the ACS 12 and you're going to get all those stacks up as quickly as possible. Obviously, with this gear set, I can't do it, but that's how you're going to get it up, right? Now, if you decide that, you don't want to use it, and instead of using the ACS 12 to get to 200 stacks, and then use your assault rifle for a little bit, and then go back and forth, which is basically how you're going to have to use that gear set. And there are other issues which I'll come on to. If you decide not to use a shotgun, then this is the Bullet King, and let's just see how many bullets it takes to get to max stacks. So to get about halfway, you're looking at what, 120, 130 bullets? Now, so what, you're looking at, that was what, 250 maybe? I think that was even more than that, 350 bullets, 340 bullets, something like that. That is a lot of bullets just to get to max stacks. Now, I did this with a Chameleon, and I think it was about 7, I think I had to reload like 7 times in order to get to those max stacks. It's going to take you an awfully long time to reach those max stacks if you're not using an ACS 12. Which, if you're using ACS 12, then sure, you can get to those stacks pretty quickly. But if you're not, then it's going to take you forever. And the biggest problem with that is that, yes, with this gear set, if you are at max stacks, then you are going to be flying through content, guys. The amount of damage that you can do here is astronomical, right? Crazy. I think it's even higher than what Heartbreaker was in the first phase of the PTS for Season 9. And that gear set felt broken. I know that gear set's got armor regen as well. So overall, for me personally, Heartbreakers to me is still better anyway, because of the armor regen. But even back then, this gear set still does more damage. I believe this gear set does about an extra 10-15% more damage than the Heartbreaker did when it was really powerful before they changed it to additive damage. So this does a crazy amount of damage. However, there is a big however here. Keeping your character at 200 stacks is nigh on impossible. I mean, it really is not going to happen. The only time that you're going to be able to do that is if you're doing like legendary bosses, legendary heavies, because you're just not going to get those stacks up, and it's just not going to happen. All right, when you're just going through normal NPCs and stuff on any difficulty, anything above 100, 150, you're shredding enemies. Right, they're not even especially on an all red build. You're not even going to be able to blink. Right, those enemies are just going to go down so quickly. It's crazy, and the problem with that is that because the enemies go down so quickly, you don't actually get a chance to actually keep the stacks up, because what you need is a static target that can take a lot of bullets to reach the full potential of this build, and you're not getting that. I mean, I would say that most of the time you're probably going to be sitting at about 100 stacks most of the time in most content. If you go into any heroic content, you go up against any red bars, yellow bars, purple bars, any of those kind of enemies, just normal NPCs, they're getting dropped. On 100 stacks, they're getting dropped quickly. It's just, there's no way around it, right? And even those enemies, they're going to be behind cover. You're going to have to be in the face of those enemies. So you're going to be putting yourself at quite a risk. There's going to be a lot of exposure to you as a character, because this set offers no survivability, basically. So you're going to be putting yourself at quite a bit of risk anyway doing that, but it's going to have to be run and gun to keep those stacks up as much as possible. And like I said, you really have to be using the ACS 12 to keep those stacks there. Otherwise, you're just going to notice that after about 100 stacks, when you start hitting, the 4 stacks lost per second, that's incredibly hard to keep up unless you've got a constant flow of enemies that you're constantly hitting. It's just going to decay so quickly that you're just going to find that most of the time you're between 0 to 100 stacks with this. And at that point, I don't really see why you would choose this over something like Heartbreakers, which is easier to reach the stacks on. Generally speaking, it's much easier to get to those stacks, much quicker to get to those the stacks required for Heartbreakers. Plus, you get the armor regen, which this build doesn't offer. Plus, you can build into blues as well with Heartbreakers. So you get the armor regen, and you still get really good damage. And this Strikers just doesn't offer it to the same extent. Sure, if you want to go into, if you're gonna, you're gonna go and fight a legendary boss or whatever, put this on. You're gonna shred. You're gonna do so much damage. You're gonna absolutely get through that content very quickly. But for most of us, 99% of us that play this game, and that includes me, 99% of us, there's just really no need to use this. I mean, if you're using this gear set in anything below heroic, no point. Absolutely no point, because even if you get to 100 stacks, you're just melting enemies. There's really no point. You're not even going to reach the full potential of this build. Even on heroic, I mean, I can't see much content that's going to allow you to get to 200 stacks. And so what's the point? You might as well just use something else that's better. If you're only using this stack, only using Strikers up to 100 stacks, there are so many builds out there that are just better than Strikers at 100 stacks. So for me, this is the best DPS gear set in the game, but it is so very situational that only 1% of the content would this be a viable option. Otherwise, there's just way better options out there. The other thing I'll say as well, before I go, guys, because I know I'm rambling here, I don't actually know why Massive decided to make this change. Now, I understand why they went from multiplicative to additive. I get that. They wanted to put it in line with Heartbreakers. But why they decided to take it from 100 to 200 stacks, I don't know. Personally, if they wanted to give it a lot of power, then they could have just increased the amount of weapon damage you get per stack instead of increasing the amount of stacks that you need. And that would have meant that it was much easier to keep those stacks up, and thus this build be more comparable to something like Heartbreakers or other gear sets in the game. But as of right now, 200 stacks, just not plausible. I think I even watched a video from Patrick Wolf. I actually watched it when I was looking into this gear set myself. And he said, this is the best gear set in the game, and I totally agree with his statement there. However, as he also said, that when he was running through legendary content, most of the time he was at 100 stacks. And so, in my opinion, if you're just going to be at 100 stacks most of the time, then really there's no point. There's just better builds out there than this. So for me personally, Strikers needs to be changed. I don't like it the way it is, and if it is going to be a gear set that everyone can use and is viable for everyone, the way they've made it is not that. This is going to be for the 1% of people for 1% of content. That's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Until the next one, epic out.